experience of HIV stigma?
My personal experience of HIV stigma, well, I was diagnosed 8 or 9 years ago, and I've been quite lucky. I probably don't listen to a lot of the stigma, but mainly it's come not from maliciously and well-meaning comments which are just quite ignorant, you know. People think situations like it was in the 80s and 90s. Comments like, can we share a sandwich, or, you know, someone's bought me a pint thinking that would be our last one, which was quite nice. But it's what people call, it's, you know, it's not a death sentence anymore, it's a life sentence because of the continued prejudice and discrimination and, you know, pretty stupid comments.
Yeah, great. Second question, what positive examples can you give where stigma has been tackled?
I've seen some amazing examples of where stigma has been tackled. Mainly I'm very inspired by friends and family groups who don't wait for the authorities to educate them, but educate themselves and get together in community groups and support their friends who have become infected. But the main place where I'm very inspired is through activism. There's a lot of incredible NGOs and charities who do a lot of work on HIV, but for me it's when people don't wait for the government to act, and at the moment that government aren't acting fast enough. And there's obviously threats to the National Health Service, which is very problematic. So when people take to the streets and demand change and not wait, because we can't wait, because people are still dying from HIV and AIDS, not just across the world, but in the UK.
Right. What are you doing to help tackle HIV stigma?
What I'm doing to tackle HIV stigma is doing everything I can to protect the National Health Service. We should treasure the National Health Service. We're so lucky. I feel so lucky to be living in 2014 because my friends who survived the first crisis, they got a different story. We're in what's now being called the second silence. For the first silence being in the 80s, the second silence being now, for 3 compounding reasons. One, the cuts to education and prevention services, particularly in London. All the whilst there's a rise in transmission levels in certain demographics of society. And the third compounding reason is that people believe that HIV and AIDS was something resolved where Mark Fowler got on his motorbike and sped out of it Albert Square in EastEnders, which is just not true. So that's why it's been called the second silence. So I'm doing everything I can to work with community groups, activism groups to protect the NHS and to challenge political bodies who are cutting